It was still dark outside when I heard the pounding on my front door. I looked at the clock, 5:02 a.m. No one knocks at that hour unless something is wrong. I pulled on my sweatshirt and went to the door, my heart already racing. When I opened it, two uniformed police officers stood there, their faces serious. "Ma'am, are you Sarah Mitchell?" one asked. "Yes," I managed to whisper, though my voice trembled. "I'm afraid we have some bad news," the officer said quietly. "Your husband, Robert Mitchell, was found dead in his car early this morning. We need you to come with us." For a second, my mind went blank. Dead? Robert? It couldn't be. Just last night, he had kissed me goodnight and said he'd be working late. I shook my head in disbelief, clinging to the doorframe for balance. The officer's voice was calm but firm. "Please come with us, ma'am. We'll explain everything at the station." The drive to the police station was a blur. Flashing lights, cold air, and the echo of my heartbeat. I sat in the back seat, staring at my shaking hands. My husband, a man I had lived with for 15 years, was suddenly gone. When we arrived, they led me to a small gray interview room. The smell of stale coffee and disinfectant filled the air. I sat in silence, trying to piece together the fragments of reality. A detective entered, middle-aged, with sharp eyes and a weary expression. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Detective Harris. I'm very sorry for your loss." I nodded, still numb. How did it happen?" He sighed and looked at his notes. "Your husband was found in his car near the old bridge. It appears he was shot at close range." My heart dropped. Shot? By who? "We're still investigating," he said. "Do you know anyone who might have wanted to harm him?" That question lingered in the air like a storm cloud. Robert wasn't perfect. We had our arguments, and lately he'd been distant. But murder? I couldn't think of anyone. "No," I whispered. "He was a good man. Everyone liked him." The detective gave a slow nod. "We'll keep you updated." When I returned home later that morning, the house felt heavier, as if the walls themselves knew something terrible had happened. His coffee cup was still on the counter, his jacket on the chair. Then I noticed something strange. His phone, the one he always carried, was lying on the dresser. Robert never forgot his phone. Curiosity, or maybe instinct, made me pick it up. The screen was locked, but I knew his password. I had used it before when he asked me to send an email. I unlocked it, and that's when my world began to crumble. There were dozens of messages between Robert and someone named Denise Carter. At first, I thought she might be a coworker, but the tone was far from professional. One read, "Can't wait to see you tonight." Another said, "She'll never know." My chest tightened. My husband had been cheating. But then I found something worse. Screenshots, bank transfers, secret accounts, and a photo, Robert holding a briefcase full of cash, standing with a man I didn't recognize. The timestamp was from the night before his death. The next day, I went back to the police station. I asked to see Detective Harris. When he saw me, he frowned. "Mrs. Mitchell, you shouldn't be here. You need rest." "I found something," I said, placing Robert's phone on his desk. "You need to see this." He opened it, brows furrowing as he scrolled through the messages. "Well," he muttered, "this changes things." "What does it mean?" He leaned back. "We already suspected his death wasn't random, but these transfers, this could be connected to a larger fraud case we've been tracking." I blinked. "Fraud?" "Yes, your husband worked at the investment firm Hamilton and Co., right?" I nodded slowly. "Well, over the last 6 months, over $3 million vanished from their client accounts. We think Robert might have been involved." I felt my stomach drop. "No, that's impossible." "I wish it were," the detective said softly. "But if he was part of it, then someone else from that circle might have silenced him." Days turned into weeks. I tried to grieve, but grief tangled with suspicion and anger. Robert wasn't the man I thought he was, and the deeper I looked, the darker it got. The firm froze our accounts, claiming they needed to verify everything. Our friends stopped calling. Whispers followed me everywhere. She must have known, they said. I started investigating on my own. Late nights, scrolling through files, calling numbers from his phone. That's when I found Denise Carter's address. She lived 2 towns away. One rainy evening, I drove there, my heart pounding like a drum. When she opened the door, she looked startled, as if she'd seen a ghost. "Sarah, I didn't expect—" "You knew my husband," I interrupted. Her lips trembled. I'm sorry for your loss." "Don't," I said. "You were sleeping with him." Tears welled up in her eyes. "It wasn't like that. He said he was leaving you." "Of course he did." My voice was cold. "But that's not all, is it?" She froze, her eyes darting toward the back room. "I don't know what you mean." I stepped closer. "He was killed, Denise, and I think you know why." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, trembling, she whispered, "They were supposed to meet last night, Robert and Mark." "Mark?" I repeated. "He worked with Robert. They were moving the money somewhere else, but something went wrong." "Where can I find this Mark?" She hesitated, then scribbled an address on a scrap of paper. "Please, don't tell anyone I told you." I nodded, pocketing the note. "You won't hear from me again." The next evening, I drove to the address, a shabby warehouse near the river. It was quiet, except for the sound of rain on the tin roof. I waited in the shadows until I saw a man walk in carrying a black duffel bag. His face matched the photo from Robert's phone. Mark. My pulse raced as I crept closer. The door wasn't locked. I slipped inside, my phone flashlight dimmed. I could hear voices, 2 men arguing. One of them was Mark, the other was someone older, with a sharp voice I couldn't place. Then I heard it clearly. Robert panicked. He said he wanted out. "You shouldn't have killed him where he'd be found." My blood ran cold. Killed him. So it was murder. I stepped back, accidentally kicking a loose bolt. It clattered across the floor. The voices stopped. "Who's there?" a man shouted. I ran. Bullets rang out behind me. I darted behind a stack of crates, breathing hard. One more shot whizzed past. My mind screamed, "I have to get out." When the footsteps drew closer, I pulled out my phone and hit record, capturing every word. "You idiot," one man said. "If she finds out, we're both done." "Relax," the other replied. "Robert's dead. No one else knows." I hit send. The audio went straight to Detective Harris. A moment later, the police sirens wailed in the distance. Hours later, I sat in the station again, shaking but alive. They had arrested both men. The audio was enough. They confessed to everything: embezzlement, fraud, and Robert's murder. Detective Harris looked at me with a mix of sympathy and admiration. "You did well, Mrs. Mitchell," he said. "Without you, we might never have connected the dots." I gave a tired smile. I just wanted the truth. Weeks later, I stood in court as the verdict was read. Both men, life in prison. Justice, they called it. But justice doesn't bring peace. It doesn't erase betrayal. Afterwards, Denise approached me outside the courthouse. She looked pale, broken. "I didn't know they'd kill him," she whispered. "I'm sorry." I looked at her for a long moment. So am I. Then I turned and walked away. That night, I sat by the window watching the rain fall, the same way it had that morning when everything began. The truth had cost me everything: my husband, my peace, my trust. But it also gave me strength I never knew I had. I learned that sometimes revenge isn't fire or fury. Sometimes it's simply revealing the truth and letting justice do the rest. I closed my eyes, whispering to the empty room,
Goodbye, Robert. You buried your secrets, but I dug up the truth.